There's power in taking a photograph. There's power in being an artist.
It's the Phoenix Film Revival Podcast.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Phoenix Film Revival Podcast. I am your host, Daniel Iannicone, and we have Stacy Iannicone,
Hello, hello.
and we have
Matthew Stella.
and
Katie Zamian.
awesome. I would butcher those names. So,
Mine especially.
yeah. So these guys are from Silver and Cedar, a really awesome tintype shop up in, what is that?
Sunny Slope,
Sunny
right?
Slope.
Yeah.
Sunny Slope
Sorry.
area. Yeah.
You guys probably get the Cave Creek
Oh,
comparison
yes.
a
All
lot
the
because
time.
you're on Cave Creek Road, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had people drive to Cave Creek without
Oh,
even
no.
like looking at the maps.
No.
And then they're like, oh, we're going to be 30 minutes late because we're in Cave Creek.
Yeah.
It happens a lot.
Because, like, I feel like Cave Creek definitely gives to the vibe of Tintype, so I feel like people just assume that that's where it is.
They don't think any different. That's a pretty
Yeah.
good distance away from you guys, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yikes.
Yeah, so in Sunny Slope, to be clear.
Yeah.
Yes. And yeah, tintyping. It's something awesome, really old tradition in photography, or I guess traditional process.
Traditional
To
process.
make,
It's been around a very
make
long
photos.
time.
And we'll have Matt fill us in on that. And we actually met Matt previous to, I guess.
Yeah, I think I met
a
you
while ago.
guys at one of your first events or close to one of your first
Yeah, I
events.
think it was our very, very first event.
Was it Hell City?
It was Hell City
Yeah.
in 2019 is where I met you guys. Yeah, I was getting a tattoo and then went back and where the vendors were. I'm like, oh, wow, this is so cool. I was
Yeah.
with an ex at the time. I was like, what is this? Yeah, I got a thing, which now it's with an X, so I don't even have it out. But
Just take another one.
Yeah,
second
right?
one was,
And
so
so we
that was
did.
one of your first ones that you did?
That was the first
Yeah,
event.
Very first one. That's the first, like, other than shooting at our house with friends, the first time he went and shot Tintypes of people
Yeah.
at all. So
So
Yeah.
you guys didn't have a shop at that point.
No, not at all.
we weren't even named Silver and Cedar.
No.
Yeah, I don't remember
cool.
you guys having really even a sign. I
No.
think you just had like a couple examples
I
sitting
think
out.
I made a banner like super, super quick. Like literally we shot a tintype of my buddy Lucas. And like, I think that next day I like made a banner for Hell City. And it's kind of a long story, but I had about a week to kind of figure out how to shoot tintypes. And then,
Oh, wow.
and then we did Hell City. So yeah, it was like, I don't know if you want me to go into the story.
Go for it.
Yeah,
and all
absolutely.
that, but so my buddy Christine, so I used to tattoo for like 12 years before I did all this, and my buddy Christine, I tattooed with her for years. So she's an amazing like fine art oil painter. I don't know if that's what you call it, so if I'm butchering it, I'm sorry. But like oil paintings, like super realistic, just awesome stuff. And she kind of knew I've always been into photography. I've always been trying to push it. And she was kind of running the wet paint project at Hell City. So she asked me if I wanted to do it, but if I wanted to do something photography related. So I was like, yeah, definitely. And I've always known about tintypes. So I was kind of like, I mean, that's really the only thing I know besides Polaroids that you can really kind of do live. Or I guess paper, which you guys shoot a lot of paper. But I was like, why not make it as hard for me as possible?
Yeah, like looking back, that's gotta like you ran right into the deep end on doing it. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, on
That
location.
is his style.
I'm really bad with that. But
I respect that.
Yeah.
But you learn a lot that way.
Yeah.
So that was, I knew I was going to do it, I think a couple months before Hell City. And I had no idea. Like, I knew about large format, shooting large format film, all that stuff. But the tintype process versus large format, I had no idea. I was like, do you need like a special wet plate camera? Can you use anything? Can you use any plate holder, film holder? So I had no idea. So a good chunk of it was me trying to figure out what to do and how to do it. And at that time, I think there was maybe like 3 videos on YouTube that showed mostly tintypes being fixed. So I still had no idea. Like, I couldn't find out how to do it and all that stuff. And luckily, I called one of the supply companies, Bostic and Sullivan, out in New Mexico. They do awesome alternative processing chemicals and all that, and they have tintype or wet plate collodion chemicals and all that. So I called them and I was like, hey, well, before that, I went to Tempe Camera and I got a Wisner 4x5. I think it was the only large format camera they had. Got it for an amazing price because it was around 5 years ago. So like nobody was really caring about large format stuff.
True.
But mint condition, perfect camera. And I called Bostic and Sullivan and I was like, hey, I'm like getting into tintype photography. I have no idea what to do. And they have like a starter kit. So I talked to them about that. And luckily I was talking to the owner's son and we ended up talking for like 2 hours. And I was like, yeah, I just got a hold of a camera. And he was like, what kind of camera? And I was like, a Wisner 4x5. And he kind of like hesitated and he was like, oh, and I was like, what? Like, you know, it's like, it's a nice camera. And supposedly these cameras are cursed because he comes from a family of organ makers. So the craftsmanship on it and everything is like perfect. But I guess he took a bunch of money or something and then just kind of disappeared. So at least that's what I heard from him. So he was like, yeah, you have a cursed camera. And I was like, oh, shit. Okay.
It's a good first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
But I guess it was a good curse because that is the camera that built the business and all that. But that was about 3 weeks before the convention. So I ordered the chemicals. We had a New York trip planned. Mm-hmm. So we head out to New York and I'm getting chemicals shipped to the house. So like we're in New York and it's like Bostic and Sullivan delivery, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, shit, like I need to figure out how to do this. And then we get home and turned my bathroom into a dark room and shot every single night until about 3-4 o'clock in the morning. All of my buddies came over and then we did Hell City.
That's crazy.
So, yeah.
That is a crazy start.
So that's why when everyone's like, how'd you get into it? I'm just like, ooh, I just, just trial and error. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, that's how I like officially started shooting wet plate.
That's insane. I mean, if you're going to do something, you might as well just dive straight in
And
and figure out how to do it wrong and then do it right.
Yep. And I did it wrong. Yep. I still do it wrong.
That's the only way
Who
you can.
knows what those tintypes look like from that event?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious.
I remember mine. I could dig it out somewhere. I'm sure I have it, but I don't remember it looking that bad. I remember it looking okay. Yeah, it didn't look. I certainly don't remember it being like you didn't come across like you just learned it and just were figuring out. But then too, also a lot of people don't even know the process at all in any way. So you can kind of fake it till you make it with a lot of that stuff too. Because if someone doesn't actually know, unless you have someone that actually knows the tintype process, which is probably rare.
Yeah,
in that case,
As long as it looks cool, that's what matters.
exactly.
Yeah.
Even if you don't understand it, as long as it comes out okay, hey, if your end product is there, you're good to go.
And I think that's the cool thing about shooting tintypes is like if you get an image on a plate, you're going to freak out. Like it's cool. Like you're like, holy shit, I have something on a plate and it could be the worst tintype you've ever seen, but it's still going to be cool and people are still going to freak out about it.
Yeah. I've seen some very odd tintypes, but they all they have this magical quality
Yep.
about them. So yeah, they all kind of look kind of great. No, that's
Yeah.
awesome. So where did you go from there then? So you started that, you kind of got your feet wet, trial by fire. It seemed like it went okay.
Yeah. So from there, I was talking to Katie and I was like, I really want to push this. And
Well, at Hell City, like by the third day of the convention, we had like a huge line. And we both have dabbled in different business ideas and never had much success with anything. So that was the first time anything we did like really generated a crowd that seemed excited. So yeah, he's like, oh, I think we should get a studio. And I was like, I'm the cautious one.
I'm very, 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 very spur of the moment.
Yeah, we balance each other out good that way.
Yeah.
But I was like, whoa, no.
Yep.
Definitely not. I
Yeah.
was like, too soon. We don't know. And then I think like 2 days later, he came home with a key to a studio.
Nice.
Surprise.
There you go. Was that in Scottsdale? Was that on?
It was in
Because I think
Scottsdale.
I took a
Yeah.
friend, and he got his with
Yeah.
you. I didn't do it that day, but I remember you being in that small shared studio. That was
Yeah.
kind of a closet. That was.
It was tiny. My dark room was a little box, and I was shooting with a massive lighting setup, some old Speedotrons, and it was all a lot of trial and error, and it was a tiny spot.
So you got to have a start somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think we were in there for that long.
It was, I think, like 6 months.
But it was Old Town Scottsdale. So
Yeah.
the rent I paid.
I was going to say the
It
rent
was
had to have
outrageous.
been just out of
It was
control
brutal, yeah.
over there. Yeah. And you were kind of hidden up in that weird
Well,
spot.
it was like
yeah.
a shared creative center, so we couldn't get like walk-in traffic or anything like that. So
Yeah.
we couldn't have like a sign up or anything.
Yeah,
like
like
that.
when they closed, we closed. So
Well, that's a bummer.
that was the hard part about it. There was like multiple times it'd be late at night and it was like, oh, like it'd be cool if we can see if they wanted a tintype, and just go back and shoot it. But we couldn't do that because it was closed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super limiting.
So I came home with keys and I was like,
We're going to make this happen.
got a studio.
Yeah.
So you still tattooing all the way up until that point?
I was still tattooing. So the reason why I got the studio in Old Town was because I was tattooing at Old Town Inc.,
Okay.
which was like, a couple buildings
That
down.
makes sense. Okay.
So it got to the point where I'd be tattooing and I'd have like a small break and I'd go shoot a tintype and then come back and keep tattooing and then have a break, go shoot a tintype, come back. So I did that for 6 months.
And I was working for American Express at the time, and I would bring my laptop there and just be in meetings and be on mute and like help talking to his clients and stuff. I'm like, hold on 1 second, like go back to my meeting real quick.
So like when we say like we hit the ground running, like we like just put everything we had into making this work,
Yeah.
Because like Katie was saying, we've tried so many different things and nothing's caught on, It's like all of my jobs have been technically like not working for somebody, or it's been really like lenient. Like before tattooing, I went to culinary school and I cooked for a long time. So cooking was very kind of you do what you want to a certain extent. And then tattooing was just do whatever the hell you want. So there was no way like working for someone else was just kind of out of the question.
And I was just the complete opposite. I've worked for companies my whole career so far. So the idea of having something that was our own, and it was really scary because I said before I'm super cautious about that kind of stuff. So I'm thinking about, everything that could go wrong.
Well, how
and,
do we live?
yeah, the
Yeah.
responsibility
Yeah.
of it all, not getting a consistent paycheck. But I kept my job for a while until I just couldn't anymore.
Yeah, and I was tattooing, the whole time up until not too long ago. So yeah, I was always tattooing in tintypes. Now I'm doing it full time, but we both are. So
That's amazing. Yeah, I totally can relate with the trying to get your own business up and running and started. I think when we started the lab, I was just like too afraid to quit my job
Yeah.
and just jump into that because it can be intimidating for people to try and start their own business. But you've got some experience prior to that.
Yeah, I feel like that
So-
helped out a lot,
Yeah.
because it was like I was always client driven. It was like I always needed to get my clientele,
Yeah.
and it was never a steady paycheck. I can't remember the last time I was like, oh, Friday, I'm making $1,200. No, never. Like, I can't remember, any of that. So it was really easy to just kind of be like, oh, I'm doing something else.
Here's some keys. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that certainly does make it a lot easier. Like it's scary. Like for us, I mean, we do both at the same time with the lab, but the lab's not really a money maker, I would say. But
Yeah, it's more of a fun thing. It's just kind of, don't let my tax person hear this, but it's like a write off. Yeah, I write all this film off.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, we can do our hobby and teach people at the same time, and it's kind of a nice mix together. Yeah,
it's expensive as far as at personal hours.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, we're getting paid pennies, but
if we didn't enjoy film, we wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, so how many tintypes would you say that you've shot up until now?
Ooh, 4,000 to 5,000.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, guys,
Wow,
Yeah.
that is a
man.
lot. The hustle.
We'll go, sometime about 20 a
It
weekend,
was like 20 to 25 plates a weekend.
just cranking them out like non-stop.
Oh my God.
Which is like, it's amazing, but thinking about it, a tintype photographer cranking out 25 portraits a weekend is like, it's a lot,
So many. Yeah.
But it got me where I'm at, and it taught me a lot. And it's exhausting.
Oh man.
Are you guys cutting your own metal and everything?
No.
Okay. I was gonna say that adds a whole.
Yeah, I like price it all out, and buying pre-cut versus cutting your own is like pennies, which it would save, but it's so much easier.
Not worth
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, just because
Yeah.
that's a whole
Yeah.
different piece.
Yeah.
Not alone, the chemicals alone.
So yeah, something to take into consideration is the time and energy that you're putting into that
Yeah.
versus actually doing the
Doing
craft.
it.
Well,
Yeah.
that's So it's like if I'm not shooting, I'm maintaining some sort of chemical, or I'm troubleshooting a problem I've had during that week. That's
Yeah.
pretty much how every week goes.
Yeah.
So
And I
it's-
always tell him, like, your time is more valuable than any pennies you'll
Yeah.
save by trying to do something yourself like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta be careful with that. My saying
still
around
don't
here
know
is
that.
he doesn't know that lesson yet. I'm always like, sometimes it's better just to get it done than to, take your time and miss out on doing something else. Like
I
sometimes
was
you just
so
have
bad.
Yeah.
to get it done.
I was
That's all
hand
you have to do.
processing film for people, and that was the most. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna make some money. This will be great. I'll be able to buy nice equipment, and then I was like, where's the money? Where's my time? Like, it's just week after week, it was just like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have
I
to
mean,
be
hand
very, very
processing,
careful.
same exact
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
You're
Yeah.
dealing with the same thing I'm dealing with.
I was charging $5 an hour at the rate for scanning. I was like, what?
Were you copy standing or
No,
scanning?
flatbed scanning.
Flatbed scanning. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's like minutes.
that is-
Yeah, each roll was a half an hour at a fast clip, and without any sort of editing. So yeah,
You're making like $1 an hour, man.
I was like, neat. And then, but
Yeah, it's easy to fall into that. So you have to like
That's a
kind
trap.
of work the math and
Yeah.
make sure like what you're doing, you're spending the right place, the money in the right place and the time in the right place. You guys have been great with, and I'm assuming, Katie, you're running the Instagram for the most part. I don't know if I'm wrong about that, but you guys have done an amazing job with social media.
Yeah.
Like your amount of followers and your posts are always like really great. Like you guys have done such a good job with that.
Thank you. Yeah, it was. So when we started, that was originally my job. I ran the social media, and then I built relationships with clients and all of that kind of stuff, scheduling, like all the behind the scenes things. There's just not his strength. So
Not at all.
I feel like I have like both types of brains, the creative brain and then whatever you call the other kind of
The responsible brain.
I just never really nurtured the creative brain a lot, and so I was just instantly just like natural at just running the business and handling all of that. So we've been kind of, as of the last like 6 months or so, we've both been doing the social media, but
I'm really bad with it. Like it's
a skill.
like my brain just doesn't function like that. Like I don't see something and I'm like, I gotta post that. Like not at all. It's like I see it, it's for me. I'm like, cool. But that's not how it works.
yeah.
So
There's apparently more to it.
so it's kind of, I'm not in the studio anymore, so it just made sense. Like I'm like, Matt, you should take it over. It should be your voice. I don't even really get to meet a lot of the clients anymore, so we're trying that. But yeah, he's not really into
Struggling.
doing it, so we're kind of talking about me doing it again. So I don't know.
Gotta start billing.
It's always both. It's on both of our phones, and we both go on it and do stuff. But for the most part, like for the long chunk of the time, I put together most of the posts.
Yeah, that's like a full-time job. Now there's Threads.
Yeah.
which
like-
I just got on.
Yeah.
And I'm liking it.
Yeah.
So far.
It's a fun platform.
Yeah.
I got on it and I immediately regretted. I'm like, I don't want any more social media. Why did I even bother signing
Now
up for
I'm
this?
bouncing.
Yeah.
I'm like Instagram, Threads,
Yeah.
TikTok.
Well, the
Instagram,
other day
Threads,
I told
TikTok.
him to post something on the Instagram
Oh,
story. He comes in and he's like, "How do you?" I was like, "You need to do the little question box." And he's like,
I get flustered very easily too.
he's like, "How do you do the question box?" And I'm like, "It's the little, you just like go to the sticker and it's like the one that says questions." And he's like, "It's not there anymore. Instagram took it away." And I'm like, "Are you on the story? It looks like you're making a reel." And he's like, "No, it says story." And he shows me and I'm looking at it. I'm like, I open it on mine and I'm like, "Why does it look so different?" He's like, "Am I on TikTok?"
That explains
Yeah.
it. That explains
Yeah.
it. Yeah. I go
Stacey's
full.
like that.
Oh my God. I go full old lady when it comes to
Yeah.
like the social media. I'm like, all right, I'm not a boomer, I swear, but I cannot, like, it all floats above my
No,
head.
I'm definitely the person that like I'll like go to make a story and I'm like recording, but it's like shooting up at my face and I don't know it yet. And then like I'm like, oh shit, and I hold it up. Like that's me. That's what I do.
That's such a hard part about business, especially creative businesses, because I feel like a lot of creatives, you don't have, it's hard to have all of those skills, like where you have, you can do the social media, you can run a business. Like they're all very different skills. So it's very hard to like kind of pull those together. You guys, I think, have lucked out where you both can use, your strengths
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
pull those together. I know that's kind of how we work, where, I can
Yeah.
do this thing, he can do this thing. And it helps a lot because one person trying to do all of those things is like almost impossible.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we were able to like make it and have the success we've had so far, because I feel like we have completely different strengths and both strengths are just as necessary for the business we've created.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Power couple.
Supposed to say hashtag power couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have that as well. You should have seen the lab before Stacy came on. She whipped it into shape.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, what is this? I used to
Yeah.
lovingly call it the basement. Because it looked really scary. Like you walk in and be like, nope, I'm leaving. This is not where I want to be. It's not inviting in any way, shape, or form. This looks downright.
We threw a lot of stuff away. I
Yeah,
had
there
to
was
say
a lot-
goodbye to a lot of things.
Yeah, Dan was like in the dumpster, like trying to rescue stuff that was going into the dumpster and bringing it back, like hiding stuff.
You're like,
in
I might
corners.
use it
Yeah.
in
That's
10 years.
That's exactly
I
what
might need it.
There's a few things in there that she hasn't got to yet that I'm just like, oh God.
You're like, all these cords, these go
Yeah.
to something.
Yeah, I had to sacrifice things.
Yeah,
So,
he had like 14 enlargers. I'm like, babe, at most we can use 2 of these at one time. We can't use this many broken enlargers. What are we going to do with all
you
these?
take all the good components off of
Yeah.
all of these and put them
You
together.
make
you
one
might have
good
one.
one. I'm like,
Yeah.
But if you don't actually do that, then it's just a waste of space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys do great with your space like that. I'm assuming I haven't been there since you guys switched over, like where you split it out. So you're doing
Yeah.
the leather goods now but next door. So, but still both beautiful spaces, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the studio is so the whole front, if you've ever been in there, it's kind of not L-shaped, but just kind of kicks out a little bit. So the front is studio, and I have a couple different like sets on the wall and stuff like that. And then excuse me, I just rebuilt my dark room, so that's all brand new. And then behind that is like an office area now. So now I have a spot to go to and edit photos if I need to, be on the computer, copy stand, do all that stuff.
We have a couch in there.
We have a couch, and yeah, so it's very nice and moody and cozy. So
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couch is a game changer.
yeah.
Yeah,
Seriously.
we got the couch like, whoa, we weren't sitting before.
Yeah, we had a single tiny papasan.
Yeah, we had a little
that
tiny
was like
foldable papasan.
everybody would like
so
sit in it. It was like what was that?
Because it was like the only chair. So it was like whenever you go around the circle and everyone has to
Musical
grab a
chairs.
chair, the
Yeah.
musical chair, everyone
Yeah.
would grab the chair. So it was the only place to sit. But
It
yeah,
sounds like an improvement in your space, though.
Yeah.
Is
That's
the
awesome.
leather have is that open to just public, or is that a closed studio?
Originally, I was open to the public. I've just been super busy with online orders lately, so I'm appointment only. So if people need to come and pick up their order, or if they want to make like an appointment to come and shop, it just got difficult to have like the public coming in to just like look and ask me questions, and I'd have to stop working. So I'm appointment only for now. We'll see how it goes. I never really, like, I worked in retail for a very long time and never really wanted my own shop. I left retail because I was done with it, and yeah, so here I am with a shop somehow. And so I've just gone back and forth. Like, do I want the shop? Do I not want it? I just have this dream of having like a workshop in the woods somewhere and chickens and a beautiful scenery to take a break and look at. And so I'm doing really well online and I'm enjoying that. So I'm just focused there mostly right now.
Yeah,
That's good.
Well, yeah, and the reason, we were both in my studio. So full-blown workshop, leather workshop.
So that's when you guys were there.
So leather workshop, retail store, and studio.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
And it was like, I don't even know the square footage, but it was small,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were crammed. And on top of that, we went from never seeing each other. I tattooed until 9, 10, 11, 12 at night. So mostly every night we saw each other in bed. And that was it. And then it was like, boom, one day we're with each other all the time. So
Carpool together, we live together, we work together. Yeah.
So it
was a
was
lot. Big change.
stressful. And now we can go a full day without seeing each other.
Yeah. 'cause
And
you guys
now
are separated.
we want to kill each other a lot less.
Yeah.
Getting the separation. Are you just by hours, appointment hours for the the shop for the tintypes too? So you're not, like, okay. So
Yep.
people, did you get a lot of people trying to walk in? Or I would think that'd be
No.
more appointment based anyway.
I don't think, have we shot one walk-in?
Cleveland tintype.
Yeah. So yeah, Cleveland.
Another tintyper.
Well, that's understandable.
Yeah, Paul came in and he was like, he didn't even tell us at first. And he's like, oh, do you guys have time? And I'm like, yeah, I'll shoot a tintype. And then like halfway through, he's like, yeah, I shoot tintypes. I'm like, what? Like, what? Like, why? You know, so I made him use my dark room and take a portrait of me and Katie.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll trade you.
Put him to
Just
work.
Take a portrait of us and I'll take a portrait of you. So
That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, that area is, I don't even think it's so much the area, but just the way the building we're in is kind of set back on the street. That,
Yeah.
Like the driving and walk up traffic is not like the greatest, but luckily we're both very like appointment or online driven, and we drive the traffic there more than when we rely on it to come to us, you know.
and
is
that's
better.
nice because we could pick up and move kind of whenever, you know, and not have to worry about having that walk-in traffic and all that. So
Yeah. You make your own schedule for it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so much better.
because I still don't have my dream warehouse studio. So
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds like that format works really well. Makes sense. You get people that come in and ask you like an hour's worth of questions, and you're like,
yeah,
"Got an appointment."
yeah.
So
Yeah.
So you've been branching out a little bit too with the digital. So you've done digital before. Have you done, like, what's your background as far as photography goes? Like, where did you start with that and kind of, you know, beyond the tintype, other stuff?
So yeah, so I've shot photography for years, you know, kind of normal photographer story. Got my first camera when I was like 11 or 12, fell in love with it. Shot a lot of film at that time, had no idea what I was doing, would blow through rolls. I think I had a Minolta SRT 101. I want to say that might have been my first camera. And yeah, like, doesn't have a light meter on it, no light meter.
I think that one does, but
Does it?
it probably doesn't work.
Okay.
Probably doesn't
yeah.
work. Most of them
So
don't.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was getting photos, so I'm assuming the light meter did probably work, but still had no idea. Would give my mom drugstore film. She'd go to Walmart, develop it. I would get them. So I've always known about film photography and all that. And I went from film to digital. I got the first Canon Rebel digital camera. And at that time, I was like really big in the music scene in California, like a lot of like hardcore bands, stuff like that. And I had a camera, so I started bringing my camera to every single show I went to, and just shooting band after band after band. And then I got a hold of a speed light. Had no idea how to use a speed light, so I would actually, when I was shooting, I would lower my shutter speed, and I discovered that if I put my hand on top of my flash and then raised it, the light would bounce. So the whole time I was shooting, I'd have my hand up here with the flash pointing at my hand, and I'd be bouncing into the bands. So I started getting paid very, 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 very little for shooting bands, but bands were starting to like, saw your photography, like, you want to shoot my band? And I'd be like, yeah, like $50. And they'd be like, cool. And I'd be like, hell yeah, I made it. So I shot a lot of bands, and then that slowly kind of got into more portrait work, because I started shooting like band photos, you know, like group photos. And then it kind of got closer and closer and closer. And I was like, shit, I like people, you know, I like photographing people. And started shooting a lot of portraits, and then discovered street photography. Street photography, I feel like, changed everything. Like, it developed my style, taught me how to shoot, you know, it taught me how to interact with people, which I still suck at, but it, you know, it's just taught me how to shoot photos. And I fell in love with street photography. I would say street photography is up there with one of my all-time favorite like styles of photography. And then got got back into film, so I was shooting kind of both. Yeah, and then that was all California. Ended up moving out here, and yeah, still shot all that, and
Kind of got a little, like, did a couple weddings.
yeah, I started getting into weddings,
family.
and that was due to tattooing. You know, I'd be tattooing someone, and photography would come up, and they'd be like, "Oh, you shoot photos?" And I need senior portraits, or I have a wedding, and I'm like, I could shoot weddings, you know? And I would shoot a wedding. And so it kind of evolved from there. And then yeah, just always shot photography, and then picked up tintypes.
And then I think doing so many tintypes in this time, he just really like started craving doing digital again. So to come back to getting back into digital photography.
Yeah, I think it's like anything. You start to do so much of it, you want to step back and like kind of change it up, you know? And the change from tintypes is digital, you know, at least in my opinion. So I got into shooting digital a lot more lately, but I still shoot digital medium format. So it's still extremely slow and clunky, and everything is still thought out. You know, I can't run and gun a portrait session, even if I wanted to, because my autofocus doesn't work that quick. So everything I do is still very, very slow and thought out. But that was a long story.
No,
That's what we're here for.
No, yeah, that's exactly what we're here for.
But yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I saw you went to Japan recently. It looks like you did a lot of street photography then on that trip.
Yeah.
It's like, how many cameras did you take? It looked like you took quite a few cameras.
So I took way too many.
I tried to tell him.
Yeah. So, yeah, I got like a Shimoto, like kind of hiking camera backpack, super, super awesome backpack, super awesome company. But, yeah, and I just packed that thing to the max, and it has a roll top on it. So I'm like, sweet, I have all my camera gear on the bottom, and I can roll top all my clothes, not even thinking about weight, like at all. And I ended up packing a Fuji GFX, which is a massive, heavy, medium format digital camera, a Leica M3, which is just as heavy as the medium format digital. And then what else did I bring? Did I bring an XT4? I think I might have brought an XT4. And then I think like 2 or 3 lenses and a tripod. So it was just like...
But they weren't like, they were doing like hostels and kind of.
Yeah. So we were walking.
So you're just walking
the whole entire time.
All of the weight there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man.
And then an iPad, you know, because I'm like, I gotta like either dump the photos or look at them or edit them. I don't think I pulled out the iPad once.
No.
And I brought a Leica Q. And I think I favored the Leica Q the whole entire time. So I'm like, why didn't I just bring the Leica, which makes sense because it's a fixed 28. And obviously street looks amazing with the 28. So I favored the Leica Q, and my back was broke. It was horrible, but it was the best experience like I've ever done so far. But it's funny because with street photography, I shoot a lot of people, like a lot of close-up people, candid stuff, all that. And I caught myself doing a lot more like cityscapes, just because it was amazing, you know, like the neon lights were just crazy. It was literally a cyber city.
Yeah.
So that was the coolest part.
Yeah, that sounds very cool. Yeah, I saw some of your photos. I was like, oh, he should post more photos. I always love seeing people's photos from places that are like so far away and so different from where we're at. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. He thinks people don't want to see them. And I'm like, post
No,
them.
definitely post them. People get so bored of like seeing the same thing. I always
Yeah.
like tell people like I love seeing like really normal stuff in a completely different area. Like you think like you take the picture of the alley here and you're like, wow, that's like a real trope, you know, and how boring and like seeing a gas station stuff. But you put it in like a place completely around the world that some people will never ever see other than like on TV or pictures. It takes on a whole different life. And it's like, oh, wow, they live completely different because it's like this mundane stuff that you're just so used to. And then you see it in like a completely different way of how someone else does it. It just kind of opens your eyes. So I love seeing people's travel photos whenever they have them. And I like seeing the stuff that is just like the normal everyday stuff. Like I want to see a bus stop in Japan. What's that look like? That might be cool. What's a bathroom in Japan look like? I bet that's different. Like a public restroom is probably like wildly different than our restroom.
And I never really thought of it like that. You know, I just thought of it like, oh, is this a good photo? Should I post it? So,
Did you find any crazy vending machines?
it's everywhere. Like, you can't. So you're never gonna go thirsty. You're never gonna go hungry, because you walk outside any building and there's a row of vending machines. You can get a hot coffee. You can get hot tea, cold drinks. You can get ramen. Anything you want.
Wow.
And the 7-Elevens, like,
yeah, they love 7-Eleven over there, right?
but
Like,
they're not, it's not a normal 7-Eleven.
Yeah,
You know,
I've
you
heard
can
that, yeah.
live or you can stay the whole time and live off of vending machines and 7-Elevens and Family Marts the whole entire time. And it's cheap, like super cheap. The pizza bows, so good. Yeah. But yeah, vending machines everywhere. And then those little, what are they called? They're little like clear plastic balls that have little things in them, like toys. Wow, what are they called? I don't know, but those were everywhere. They had full like 3-story buildings.
Oh, wow.
With just those. So you'd go in, but it was so addicting because they had everything. It would be like one of them full of kitchen items. And you're getting a hyper realistic little tiny like spatula,
gosh.
you know?
Is that where you got the little Red Wing boots?
Yeah. So I got Red Wing boots.
okay,
cute.
that is really cute.
I got a cat like leaning, so you can put him like on a book and he's like leaning on the book. But yeah, those were super big out there too.
Oh, man. I'd get in trouble there.
Yeah.
Same here. Kyle.
Cameras though,
Yeah.
I thought I brought a good chunk of money because I'm like, I'm gonna have to find, you know, a good ass deal on a camera here.
Oh, yeah.
Way more money. Film was 10 times more expensive.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which I went out there with everyone saying like film's so cheap, you know, in Japan. So I wanted to come back with a backpack full of film, but it was so expensive.
Yeah.
Just
Did they have
like-
more availability? Is there stuff that's
They had
there
a lot
that's
of
nowhere
film.
else? It's like Japan specific.
Not that I saw. The only thing I saw a lot of was lomography stuff, which I bought just because it was like I don't have to order it, and that was the only time I've ever seen like lomography stuff, you know. So I was like, hell yeah! So I bought like a couple box sets of like lomography film, but other than that, like I feel like they had a good selection of film, and there was one film store that was like in an alleyway, and it was like all film, but the film was just so expensive. Yeah.
What's the exchange rate there? Like, what are we getting per US dollar over there? We're not doing great.
I don't know exactly, but it's good.
Oh, we're doing. Oh, it's actually
Yeah.
okay for us. And I had a friend that just came back from Scotland. She said our dollar was worth like 75 cents or something there.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I
against
think-
the euro, it's not doing so well.
Yeah, I think ours is, I want to say a little tiny bit over $1. And yeah, it was just, everything was so cheap. You know, you'd buy a monster for like 120 yen, which I called 100 yen a dollar just because it was so close to the dollar.
Yeah.
So you'd buy a drink for like $1.20.
Yeah.
And it was just so cheap. Full meals everything was just so cheap, and everything was so real and good.
Yeah.
Whatever you ordered on a menu looked like what it looked like on the menu when you got it, which was I've never experienced that.
Did it have the whole cleanliness, super safe feel
So
too?
I saw not one piece of trash on the ground.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Trash, like no trash anywhere. And if I did see a piece of trash, it was because a local was picking it up with tongs and putting it in a bag that they had. And then they would walk away.
Jeez.
That's
just
great.
insane.
That's so different here. I wonder what the film community is like in Japan.
I feel like it'd be
curious.
good. Do
I
you
bet
follow, like, what is it, Japanese camera hunter?
Yeah, I watch their stories.
Yeah.
And follow their feed. Not super familiar with all of what they're doing, but yeah, it seems like they've got an interesting scene there. There's one guy that I watch that does really large instant photos.
Huge instant photo, I think. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're in Japan. But they do, they basically shoot with this camera that this guy made, and they end up with a color positive image, which is just insane.
And they're
large.
huge. They're huge. They're like 3 foot by like 2 foot kind of size.
Yeah, he keeps going bigger and bigger.
Do you know the
Yeah.
science behind it? Like, how is he?
Yeah, so my understand, I haven't tried it yet. I know we do our little photo booth, but there's a process where you shoot the portrait or picture, and then you develop it in black and white chemistry. So this is paper, so you would develop it in Dectol or something similar, and then from there you then expose it to light, and the light reacts with the silvers, and it causes the dyes to change into a positive. And then from there, you develop it with color chemistry. So in this case, it would be a color
So
developer.
you're developing it twice.
Yeah. So that's the color reversal process. That's technically, you're technically cross-processing the paper in that fashion.
And it's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's, I mean, you have to use the right filter. Otherwise, the paper is kind of calibrated for a certain light spectrum. And if you don't use a filter, then it ends up coming out super blue. So you use a special, I guess, like a gel that goes over that, and then you would shoot it, and that helps balance the color coming in. So
And everyone thinks Tintypes is crazy, and there's so much that goes into it.
yeah,
It's all the processes, if you really break it down, even the ones that seem like they're kind of simple, if you really start breaking down some of them, you can really get in the weeds with a lot of those processes. Like, I think that all the time I do a lot of cyanotype work, and cyanotype's like one of the easiest, cleanest, like, you know, as far as the chemicals not being super caustic and things like that. But if you really get into the weeds about, like, you know, getting the right stuff, like, you can get really involved with that. It's kind of amazing how deep some of these processes go. So Tintypes, that has, like, what's, as far as the chemicals go, are you, like, there's a couple in there that aren't super duper safe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like that one's got a few nasty ones mixed in.
Yeah. I mean, the collodion has a lot of ether in it. So ether, alcohol. Ether is definitely the one that's the most bad for you.
also the most fun.
you would think. I have yet to have fun. I just get a headache.
Yeah.
So it just gives me a massive headache. But yeah, so the ether, and then developer, and fixer. A lot of people use cyanide fixer, KCN. So obviously that's super gnarly.
Yeah.
But there's tons of benefits to it. But I've never used cyanide. I just don't want cyanide, which I'm very curious about it now. But yeah. So everything is definitely, if you get it on your skin, if you inhale it, you know, it's definitely bad. The silver from the silver nitrate crystals, if you inhale those are probably doing the most damage out of everything. But yeah, everything is crazy, and I mix and make my own fixer and my own developer. So everything that's in them, I'm handling all those raw. So it's still, you just got to be really careful with it. And that's what I'm kind of curious about, how Tintype's getting a lot more popular, a lot more people are doing it. So I'm really curious to see, like, how people are jumping into it, like how they're managing their
Yeah.
chemicals and how safe they are
Being safe about
and
it.
all that stuff. Yeah, because this stuff can it's bad.
We experimented with Rockland. I think it was Rockland.
The dry plates.
Yeah, and that was like
That was
that was just we
were-
weren't really sure what we were doing.
they were terrible.
Like,
They were.
this is like
it wasn't
glue.
really. It wasn't really tintype, but it was like some other. Like trying to be tintype. I don't think it was actually.
Yeah.
It was like sort of. It probably somewhere on like the labeling. It probably said sort of tintype. like,
Yeah,
just
I
really
don't-
tiny.
Wants to be.
Wants to be
Yeah.
tintype. Yeah, because it was definitely not tintype. We're like, what
Yeah.
is this? What is this package
Yeah.
that we're using? But
I've
yeah.
never shot dry plate.
Yeah, it's I don't know, it was a weird kit, but I feel like the process you guys do is pretty fun. Obviously dangerous.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or can be.
Can
Yeah.
be dangerous for sure.
A little expensive too. I think some of those chems aren't the cheapest chems either.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a little scary. Like folks that are just like, oh, this is awesome. I want to jump into this, but don't realize, hey, you got to be really safe too, because some of this stuff can like really mess you up. You might not know it now, but down the road,
And
you'll find out.
Yeah, not body wise, but almost everything I use is extremely flammable. The collodion in itself is literally a small bomb.
Oh,
So it's
God.
like, yeah, so that's another thing you have to be really careful about. And some things boil at a certain temperature and it's really not that high of a temperature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like you just got to be really careful with everything.
Do you have an issue getting any of your chems sourced?
Not now. So luckily my supplier has been like, for the most part, has had everything. I'll definitely notice he'll kind of get low on stuff, but I'm thinking that's because Tintype's getting more popular, more people are buying it. But luckily not yet. And like I said, I make a lot of my chemicals. So like one of my components I can buy at like a pool store, you know? So it's like, it's all just chemistry.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like if I absolutely needed to, I could source the chemistry from somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have to be someone that makes, you know, the like tintype chemicals.
Yeah. Especially
Yeah.
when you're making them yourself.
Yeah.
That helps a lot.
Actually-
Cost wise, it helps a lot too.
I
Yeah.
actually had Bostic and Sullivan reach out to me. I was like, wait, what? And somebody contacted them trying to get rid of their platinum palladium. Or
Oh,
I guess it
wow.
was just palladium and silver nitrate. And I guess they did their own little platinum palladium prints at home and did direct contact prints from negatives, 5x7 negatives.
Yeah.
And so I had this stuff. I was like, ooh, chemistry. I was
Yeah.
like, well, I know this is valuable. But we ended up giving it to a friend.
Nice.
But it was interesting that they called and asked if I would accept these chemicals. I'm like,
That's super cool.
okay.
Yeah.
Send them over.
We are a dark room, so
Yeah, they're an awesome
Yeah.
company. I love
Yeah.
Bostic and Sullivan. I mean, they started the business, so
yeah.
definitely like them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're very cool, but we don't need any more dangerous chemicals in our lab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm always
Good
telling
enough.
people don't only drink anything you want, just out of the fridge, nothing else. None of these other bottles, especially the skull and crossbones stuff
And,
that
like-
they've got sitting around.
So fun little fact, back in the 1800s, a lot of photographers died not due to inhaling chemicals or anything like that, but they always had an alcohol bottle for drinking and an ether bottle, and a lot of them would accidentally swig the ether bottle. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Or blow themselves up.
Yeah.
You gotta label your stuff right. Plus, they were like making, here's your flash. Let's get your really dangerous flammable
Yeah,
chemicals,
magnesium,
and then let's
like-
shoot this magnesium off really close to this.
Yeah,
and
I want
see
to
how that
get a
goes.
magnesium flash.
Yes.
But I don't want to keep the magnesium.
Yeah, you don't want to
That's
blow
it,
up
yeah.
in process.
People always ask if we use those bulbs.
Yep.
Yeah, we've gotten asked that a couple times too. I'm like, hell no.
We should team up.
Dude.
I definitely want to do a magnesium like flash,
I found someone that makes the
holders for it.
yeah, but
Oh,
all
wow.
it is just an L bracket
with like a little trough.
yeah, and you could do like a little
Like a welder.
Is
yeah,
it like a
trigger?
lighter flick
Yeah,
that's
that
it.
just goes
Yep.
off?
Yeah.
And then I think it's like steel wool,
Yeah.
and then that hits the
Oh, steel
magnesium.
wool.
I think that's what.
Oh,
I've
that would
seen.
make sense because yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It like
Makes like a-
sparks.
makes
kind
like a
of.
flint. Yeah,
Yeah.
like you get it.
Yeah, that would be Oh man, that'd
I'm
be fun.
down if you're down.
Let's do it.
Ours a little
Yeah.
easier. It's outside. You have your
Yeah.
whole. I don't know if I'd want to do that.
I started looking
inside.
up like the chemistry that you would need in order to do that, and I was just like, that rabbit hole was like, oh man, I want to do this.
Yeah.
It'd be
I
fun.
feel like your insurance might not cover
Yeah.
you if they see you in there.
Yeah.
Shoot
And
your
then
nose off.
it's like, the hard part too is getting chemicals. And then like, if you don't use the chemical or if it's going bad, how do you dispose of it?
Mm-hmm.
That's like
Yeah.
the part that like, boggles the brain, and you got to figure out, you got to do all this research on, do I evaporate it? Do I, put it into the earth? Like, what do I do? So that's the really hard part about it too.
Yeah.
You let it sit on your shelf for the end of time.
Right. I have
away.
a good amount of bottles that I'm like, I don't know what to do with you.
Yep. We got some of those back in the closet, and I
Yeah.
have like a big X on it. I'm
My-
like,
my-
don't, just don't.
My brother, he inherited a bunch of crazy stuff from this mad scientist guy who he knew through a friend who had passed away, and he had an X-ray machine in the kit. He had a can that had it said mercury vapor, so it was a little oxygen tank, but it had
Mercury vapor.
mercury vapor written on the side, and because that was for daguerreotypes. So this guy was making daguerreotypes. He was doing like some weird stuff, but all sorts of like crazy chemicals. And I'm like, I'm curious who this person was and what he was doing with this stuff.
Yeah, really.
Because if he had an X-ray machine,
X-ray.
then he was doing some weird stuff.
Yeah.
So
Because they used to hand process X-rays, didn't they?
they would the process to the process to actually make an X-ray is really interesting, because you need a special plate behind your subject, and that's actually what causes the silvers to react, and it basically excites the silvers that are in the film. So that whole process is kind of crazy. I still think it'd be fun to do like a portrait with like an X-ray machine, like have some weird like maybe half tintype, half like X-ray type crazy thing.
Yeah.
How Dan
But-
gets cancer in a week.
Yeah.
Right?
His whole entire body goes through the X-ray machine
Yeah.
like, multiple times, just like
Just covered in a suit of lead.
Yeah. I'm happy that I don't pursue a lot of these things, because
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd be here today.
Let's
But,
let
yeah.
those live in idea. land.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's team up on that
I'm down.
that flash powder.
Let's do it.
Definitely outside though.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
one's allowed to do it.
We
This
just
is
got to
allowed.
use it up.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's
just, We'll just go to the desert, use it up, and then we don't have to worry about it.
Somebody says, I got a tintype, but with like real flash.
They have little burn marks in their face from.
I feel like you're burning people enough just with the light. So
Right?
tintypes,
Yeah.
what's the ISO of a tintype, give or take? Like what are you at there? You're pretty low, right? I mean, because you guys are flashing with a ton of light.
Yeah. So wait, what was the question?
What's the ISO, give
Oh.
or take on?
Anywhere between 0 to 1.
Okay, so yeah, really,
so really,
low.
really low.
Yeah.
My all around strobe setup is over 3,000 watts. So it's a lot. It's a lot of power, and it's all modern. So if I have speedotron packs, if I use speedotron packs, obviously I can get that down. But yeah, so over about 3,000 watts, 1,200 just for a key light.
Wow.
So that's a lot.
That's insane.
People are getting a lot. You were doing a few outside things there for a while, I know, which is probably difficult to take that on the road. I would assume.
Like darkroom setup, you guys know.
Yeah.
You do the paper, but yeah, so darkroom is incredibly hard, and then just photographing is completely different.
Yeah.
Different contrast, different tones. The weather is going to affect what tones you're getting. It's going to affect how it's developing, how it's fixing, just everything. So that's probably the hardest part about it. Your darkroom could be, a little Tupperware box, which ours was for the longest time. It's just figuring out how to expose outside is the hardest part.
Yeah, I can imagine probably a lot of long exposures working in there.
A lot of long exposures, and your aperture is like huge. That's aperture and
Yeah.
exposure is like the key to getting good outdoor shots.
Yeah.
So doing that would be almost impossible to run it like the, as a business, just because you need that consistency.
Yeah. I mean, there's people that do, but I think it's more so like bookings and like, like clientele and like we're hanging out, we're shooting a couple plates, I don't think they're like cranking them out.
Yeah, they're definitely
you'd probably have to go the route of charging like quite a bit for a piece and doing it, I got execute it really well.
Yeah.
And like we had talked about before, tintypes at a large format probably aren't the best medium. So you'd want to shift over to doing like an ambrotype on glass.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd need to, shoot something really large to justify doing some landscape.
Yeah.
So
It's like you're shooting so many test plates.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't go out there and like if I nail it first shot, that's amazing.
Yeah.
A lot of it's test shot. And sometimes you're shooting a couple plates before you get a good, solid plate.
Yeah. You can't really light meter that either because it's the type of light that you're getting.
UV.
Yeah. You got to have that perfect balance because it might say, oh yeah, this is exposed to what you needed, but that balance of that spectrum is completely different with your artificial light. So what would you say the largest size that you've done?
Tintypes 8x10. 8x10 is the biggest I've gone. I want to go way bigger. We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
Mega tintype.
I want to go as big as you possibly can,
You have a giant lens, I think.
We were talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Den has a giant lens somewhere.
I've got one of them's a 14-inch, and it actually came from Aerial Mapping Co.
Yeah.
Which used to be around, and it was designed for doing reproduction. So you would photograph maps, you would take photos from, up above and project that down, and you would draw out the lines, and then the whole mapping process was just kind of it's like an art in itself.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to have somebody reach out to me and mention that they had a connection. This Aerial Mapping Co. had closed, and it had they just locked the door and walked away from it. And they wanted to sell the building recently, and so they wanted to get rid of all of the stuff. And this was right when COVID happened, or like started to kind of become everywhere in the US. And I was fortunate enough to get a whole bunch of stuff from them, but I got a box of lenses. So
that's so rad.
How big of a print could you end up with that size lens?
So with 14, you probably go 1:1 at 48 inches. So massive, 4 foot wide shot.
That would be
1:1
really cool.
would be insane.
Just have to make a camera.
Down.
Yeah.
Dude, we could do it easily.
Yeah.
We could do it.
Get a landscape.
Yeah.
That'd be good for a landscape. That wouldn't
Yeah.
exactly work probably well for a portrait, but
Why not? Why not have a giant head on the wall?
What's the aperture on something like that?
It's measured in inches, which is the weird. Well, not inches, but I don't even know. I mean, I guess technically it says on there like 5.6 or like 8 for the lower end of the aperture, but
because if it's 5.6, that's like pretty good.
yeah,
That's a lot of light.
I had it set up in my garage on a stool, and then I had a flashlight shining on an object, and then I went on the other side of the garage. The garage was all dark, and I held up this whiteboard and was trying to like get a sense of how big this image is going to be. And obviously it was kind of hard to see, but a little tiny bottle of like air freshener for in your car was like sitting on the shelf, and it was probably about, I want to say like 4 inches tall. And in the image, the image that I was seeing that was being projected onto the board, it was more like, I want to say like 8 inches tall. So it was like the enlargement there was actually pretty awesome, and it was really sharp. So
That's cool.
The fall off on it looked really clean too.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would imagine you can go pretty large. I think a portrait that's larger
That'd be
than
cool.
life size would be insane.
I wonder what there's probably some world record. Somebody's did like the biggest tintype. I wonder what the biggest one is.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I know.
How would you pour a plate like that?
A couple people.
Yeah, you'd need
Like buckets.
Yeah.
Buckets.
They'll use, I've seen sparklets bottles with chemicals. couple people, or you know, 4 people. I've seen 4 foot by 8 foot plate is like the biggest I've seen. And I don't know if you follow, but Ian Rudder, I think is how you say his last name.
He's done the stuff out there in the desert. The what's the name of that community? We went out there not too long ago. The
Joshua Tree?
no, what's
I
the
always
really
forget.
strange community that we went out
Oh,
to?
Slab City.
Slab City, yeah. So
Have you been out there?
No.
Go
we
out to
still
Slab
haven't been
City.
out
What a
there.
weird place. You don't know if you're being like, you're going to be welcomed. You feel like
Yeah.
half welcome, half like they're going to stab you.
Yeah.
Like it really is like this weird mix of like welcoming and terrifying at the same
Yeah.
time. It's such a strange community, but amazing stuff. Yeah, I've seen his work. It's
Yeah.
really, really cool.
he just did a whole series on Slab City. I think they
Yeah.
have like a dance, and he did like a whole series on the dance. But he turned an abandoned building into a camera in Slab City. So he cut a hole in the wall, put a lens on it, you know, boarded everything up, light sealed it enough, projected it onto the back wall, and then he shot, you know, essentially the piece of plywood.
Yeah.
And then I've seen him take box trucks and just do like black plastic with a lens on a tripod, and then projects
there you
it
go.
through
There you go.
the.
You guys could get a U-Haul.
Yeah, I mean, like
Yeah.
we could do it for sure.
Yeah, I'm game. I've got the lens for it. And then I'm an able-bodied photographer as well.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Well, yeah, going large is definitely awesome. I think the largest I guess is a pinhole maybe. There was a picture that was taken inside of a airplane hangar once. I don't know if you've seen that one, but that thing's massive. It's like 1 story tall, and it's or like maybe 2 stories tall, and then it's, I don't know, it's like the size of a jet basically. But I don't think that would be possible to do a tintype that large.
You'd have to move very, very quickly.
Oh yeah, that'd be a hassle.
Yeah.
So AI photography, I know that's been a huge topic lately, and the improvements on artificial intelligence with photography, which is completely out of the realm of tintypes. But you could technically take a selfie and then, you know, make a fake filter at this point.
And I think people have already. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. I'm curious where the future is going to go with AI. Do you anticipate using AI in your workflow at all?
Yeah, I don't know. AI is wild. It's like I don't know. Like, I want to love it. I hate it. It's just, it just can do so much. But it's like the photographers that are like winning competitions and doing all that, you know, like 100% creating an image on AI is like mind blowing to me. That is like so crazy. So like that part of AI, I think is horrible, you know, and how many jobs it's going to take and, you know, and all that. Like, just thinking about how many like sellers there are now that literally just type in a couple words, print it out, and are making a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
Not doing anything at all. So I feel like the creative in me doesn't like that part, but the creative in me likes the creativity that can be developed with AI. You know, it's like possibilities are endless. And like being a tattooer, if I had this when I was tattooing, it would have been a game changer. You know, you come at me with an idea, I put in that idea, and now I have reference. True. You know, I'm not like copying, or I'm not just taking that, you know, concept, I'm just referencing it. So stuff like that I feel like is awesome. And I've used it for posing, you know, just like Victorian style, you know, portrait, blah, blah, blah. It's given me a pose, and I've been like, boom, I have a Victorian style pose, even lighting, which is awesome, you know, but I'm not trying to sell that Victorian style portrait of the girl it just, you know, magically created. And there's a lot of people that are. But the whole Photoshop AI, like the Photoshop beta or whatever, that I think it sucks because a lot of people had to learn that stuff, you know, and it took them years and schooling and just so long to learn how to do everything AI can do now with Photoshop.
Yeah.
But that's the way it is, and you know, it's happening. We can't change it. It's just the fact that I can now highlight a softbox and say, remove that softbox, and it's gone and it's perfect.
Wow.
That's like, it's awesome. You know, it's like, that's the coolest thing ever. And it makes your job so much easier. But I feel like you need to use it as a tool and like stop using it to create and like profit from it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leave the human behind, still in the, like, have the human still be a part of it,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The cheating by becoming like, you know, passing yourself off as being creative is, I feel like there's still going to be some sort of delineation between, or, you know, you'll be able to spot a fraud.
Yeah.
Because without the effort behind it, I mean, obviously you'd pass in some of these competitions or contests, what have you, but I feel like there's going to be some separation, and I guess that changes the rules of how you submit work and how you're able to prove it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like Dreamweaver was a great program.
I remember Dreamweaver.
For building websites,
Yeah.
but could you imagine, like, I'm gonna sit down and crack open a book and read how to, you know, do Dreamweaver.
Which I think
I'm
I
gonna build
might
your
have
website.
had a book on how to use Dreamweaver.
Yeah, I remember going to the library as a kid. I was like, oh wow, websites.
Or what was the one that was what was the big like animation,
Oh goodness.
like stickdeath.com?
Yeah. Not splash animation.
No. It was like frame by frame and like you key it up.
What was that? Oh man, it's on the tip of my tongue. I know what. Flash animation.
Flash.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. So like Flash. Oh man, I had books on Flash. I tried to like, and literally all I got to was
Stick Death
making.
was good, by the way.
Yeah, making a ball like bounce, and like that was it, you know. But Stick Death, oh man, that was such a good
I remember getting my
website.
first HTML book. I'm like, I'm making a website.
Yeah. MySpace.
I can
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. MySpace really
Yeah.
opened it up for a lot
Yeah.
of people. That was their first experience with making anything.
Yeah.
That's how I learned.
I
Yeah.
wonder if MySpace the pages still exist somewhere there out in the
I-
world. I don't
I
even
think
remember what my
they
username
cleaned
was.
their servers.
Yeah.
They're
it's-
gone.
It was like up until like a couple years ago, and then I
Yeah.
think they cleaned them.
Yeah, they're gone. I think that website got sold too.
I'm afraid to know what my username was
Damn.
back then. 'Cause I
Yeah.
don't remember, but it was probably pretty cringy.
But I mean,
Yeah.
you know, the future is going to continue no matter what. I don't think any person has a control of stopping AI. But I feel, like you said, as long as you're utilizing it in a way that's going to improve what you're doing
Yeah.
and help you be that much more creative, is going to be better. So, you know, we invented a washing machine, and the washing machine washes the clothes
Yeah.
because we have better things to do other than washing
Yeah.
clothes. So,
Like when digital came out,
yeah.
everyone
Yeah.
was like, my job is ruined. You know, like digital photography is going to take everybody's job, but we had to learn to adapt, and, you know, they worked with it, and
Yeah.
they switched to digital. So if I got to switch to using AI somehow in my process, that's going to help me out. That's going to make my process better. That's going to make me money. I'm completely fine with it. And I have to. And so going back on would I ever use it, I've been doing, so I just started to do digital photos to tintypes. So like you send me a digital photo, I turn it into like an actual tangible tintype, and I send it back to you. So I'm doing the series on kind of, because the question I get all the time, or the comment I get all the time is, what are historians going to think 100 years from now when they see this, you know, when they see your tintypes? And I've been playing around with AI, and I'm like, this is the perfect opportunity to try it. So I was like, why don't we give historians something to kind of boggle their minds about? So I've been doing, like, my first one was a cat wearing, like, in an astronaut costume or suit that's like shot like an old astronaut portrait. And it's all hyper realistic. It looks like
It looks like a real cat.
people are like, clients are coming in and they're like, how'd you get that cat to stay still for
You
that?
shoved him in the
You know? So I'm doing just a whole, like, wild, weird, you know, line of,
Yeah.
you know, photography, and I'm using it as a tool,
Yeah.
you know, and like, yeah, I don't know.
It's a fun mashup to see
Yeah.
something that's so, like, you know, you couldn't possibly pull that off,
Yeah.
I guess, you know, and be able to, you know, have that as a piece.
Yeah,
That's
it's good to
awesome.
show that you can like mix old stuff with the newer stuff,
Yeah.
like, and it works. You can still do it.
And
where
it's
they can
definitely-
exist in the same
Yeah.
sphere.
And it's mixing the oldest form of photography with the newest form of digital creation, which
Yeah.
is, it's kind of insane if you think about it.
Oh yeah. That's just nuts.
But
was-
sorry, AI, like chat,
Yeah.
I'm all about that.
Yeah.
Because I suck at writing.
Oh yeah,
And,
it helps
like,
like write stuff
Oh
for you.
man,
Yeah, that's super good.
I'm like, write me a bio, write me, you know, a description, write me this, write me that, and it is, oh, I love it. But writers out there are probably hating me for using it the way I use it.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it depends on how you use it too. I found it works really good in a business setting. So I have a very corporate job, my day job, and it works so good with corporate speak. Like it talks like
Yeah.
a robot, and most corporate speak talks like a robot. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of like fits the profile of that. So once AI, I think, gets a little bit more human sounding, it'll be a little bit better for a lot of
And
that
it's
stuff.
gonna be
But it's
scary.
really nice
Yeah.
at least to get like a starting point for stuff, because like it's sometimes hard to just come up with something from scratch. But if you have something to like kind of get you started, and then you can like go from there and then adjust it to yourself, it's a nice tool
Yeah.
to use.
And like, I've had it plan out a week. You know, I've told it,
yeah.
like, plan me out a week on Instagram post or TikTok post, and it breaks it down. Monday, shoot this. Tuesday, post about this. Like,
Yeah.
it's insane on like what it can do for you.
I had it write me a request for a pay increase, and
Yeah.
it paid off, I will say. So I was like, you know, I could just Google one, but and you know, key it in, like, who's going to come up with that from scratch?
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, ChatGPT, I'm going to
Yeah.
make you put your money where your mouth is.
I may or may not have done my my review for work that way.
Yeah.
So you have to write your own review, and I'm like, well, let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know. It's so
Like,
good.
yeah, you wrote
It's
that way
being-
better than I would write that.
You should get an increase just for that. But you're being intuitive
Yeah, it's being innovative.
or innovative.
Yeah,
Yeah.
being innovative.
Yeah. 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 AI is going to be interesting,
Yeah,
especially with photography.
Yeah, photography is the one
Yeah.
that I'm so like. I feel like you can kind of figure out how it's going to go with a lot of different industries, but photography is one of those ones where I'm like, man, where's that going to go? Like,
Yeah, I
there's
have
so
no
many.
idea.
I
There's so
listened
many
to
ways that can go with that.
Yeah, I listened to a podcast not too long ago, and it was a lady in Florida who's a photographer, and she charges upwards of $10,000 for a shoot. And to me, that seems like quite a bit of money for, one session.
Yeah.
But the question to her was, what's your concern about AI and what that's going to do for you? And the thing there is, you're always going to have somebody who's going to want a portrait cheap. And that's not always your clientele.
No.
Your clientele that you want to pursue are the people who appreciate your work and want that. And the other thing that you offer is an experience and being able to demonstrate that and, live that rather than, if somebody wants a portrait, they can just do it on an app. And the race is always going to be to make it cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And you price everybody out of that. So I work in the business of large format printing. And one of the things that we would print pretty frequently are banners that would go on billboards. So you have these giant billboard banners. Well, there was a company that came out and decided to undercut everybody out of it. So now they monopolize it because they're able to price everybody out of being able to compete in that. But that's all they print is just billboards. So they've managed to make a business in themselves, but at the same time, you know, there's always going to be somebody wanting something cheap, and then there's always going to be your drive to demonstrate that you're a human being making something for someone.
Yeah.
So, AI is interesting.
I definitely don't know what's going to happen with it.
Yeah.
Like at all. I don't
see.
know.
Yeah.
I like it and I don't like it.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah.
It's very scary. I said this is like, you know, that jump between film and digital felt scary to a lot of people. But I think this is just like so much more scary because
Well, this can like take jobs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is
that's what's
so
scary.
many different things that it could take over and do. I mean, there's people talking about like where, you know, with AI, instead of taking photos of like when you go on a trip, instead of taking photos of the place that you are, AI will create the photo of where you were.
Jesus.
And like, that's your photo.
There's a lady in a hospital where she like played it off as being in a hospital. She was like laying on her bed and she took a picture and then she's like, I can't come into work. I'm in the hospital. And she just like, you know, edited the photo to make it look like she was in the hospital bed. I'm like, but that's not cool, man.
Yeah, that's wild. I saw too something about it was either Final Cut or Adobe, most likely Adobe, but with video software, like integrating AI with video where it'll completely like go through your video, put frames together and make it a good video
Oh yeah.
without like you don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
It does everything for you and like it cuts where it needs to cut and like takes out all the bad stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of insane. A lot of like this podcast, when I go to dump it on the computer, all of the conversation that we're having is automatically turned into text, and it's just automatically there. I don't have to do anything special. I think it's YouTube is set up that way. So just insane the way it's just starting to improve all these little things. Because can you imagine having to type out all the words?
Yeah.
Not that you'd want to, obviously, but you know, there's certain things like that'll just change, and I guess it doesn't really come across our mental, our thoughts until we see it and we're like, oh wow, okay. So, and yeah, I don't know, photography will be interesting with the transition into an AI world.
I think it'll still exist for the people that are doing it, you know, kind of like we are, like specialty stuff and like doing older processes and things like that. But I think for your everyday user, like, you know, the people that use like cell phones and take photos, I think that world's going to be very, very different. Like, you know, you look at influencers and, you know, how everyone wants to look like they're living this, you know, fancy life and fancy travel and, you know, doing all of that. And I think it's just going to be this weird race to be like, we all look great. And
I know one of the social media apps has AI built into it already. That it's either TikTok or Snapchat. I don't know. It's one of those.
TikTok.
Yeah.
But I think they have a little AI where you can type something in and it creates it and all that.
Yeah, I think I just saw an update on the iPhone. The new, I think it's iOS 17, will actually, there's an AI for your voice. So it will record little, I guess you probably program it. So you record your voice into it and then it will create text. So you type up a text and it'll give a voice, which is your voice. And it's like super creepy.
Crazy.
Yeah. I just saw a YouTube video for that. I clicked on the wrong thing. I was like, what?
But it's perfect for people like me that don't want to talk,
Yes.
you know, to social media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can make an avatar of yourself and then just type it and be
Right.
like, all right,
you do it.
cool.
You do it. Yeah. It's like living this virtual reality life, which is a
Yeah.
little creepy because then, you know, I get worried. Like we're all older enough where we know before times, you know, like,
Yeah.
But you think of kids that are coming up and this is the only thing they know. So it's like if AI is the only thing you know and the only thing that you're, you know, experiencing and you see this world through this lens of like, you know, other kids and other people online showing like their voice is perfect. What they're talking about is perfect. Where they're at is perfect. Everything's perfect. It starts like, I mean, normal regular advertising through the 80s 90s has really ruined generations. I'm curious like what AI is going to do to kids like in general, like how that's going to affect them and their viewpoints on it, because they're going to look at AI in a completely different way than we are. They're going to think it's completely acceptable to fake it, like but it won't be faking it to them. It'll be that's just how you do it.
I would imagine it's going to be hyper targeted ads in a format that is like just creepy. Like it's going to be so subtle as we move into it. And you're going to be like, why am I buying these things one day?
You aren't even going to know you're being advertised.
We're all in uniforms.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
You're going to be buying fidget spinners and you're going to be like, I need this or I'm going to lose my mind.
Get more and more subtle. The robots really are taking over.
Yeah. That's crazy. So we have a section that we've added to our podcast, which is questions from our listeners.
I feel like we need a song.
Yeah, we do.
I don't know what it would be.
Jingle.
But we need a little jingle for that.
We'll add that. So we have 2 questions for you guys. One is from Painted in Light, our friend on Instagram. And their question is, how would you define success as an artist? So obviously what you're doing is very artistic, creative. What can you say to that?
I don't think I will ever find success. Ever. Like, I just don't think it'll happen. You know, it's very, very, very hard for me to be like, I made it. You know, it's hard for me to look at a photo that I took and I'm like, that's a good photo. You know, like deep down inside, I know what to do with the camera. I know how to take a photo, but still it's like, I look at everything and I'm like, I could do better. So I feel like I could just never find success. And I feel like too, the moment you're like, I succeeded, I made it, I feel like you need to step back and like reevaluate that, because I feel like you could always go further. You know, it doesn't matter if you're a millionaire, if you have no money, like you can always go further than where you are right now.
I guess you could say that, you know, maybe not success is something that's terminal, that's like a goal, that's an end thing. But success for you essentially is your continual drive to be better than what you were yesterday. Yeah. So that could be a way of saying you're successful.
Yeah.
It's definitely a process. Our other question is from KJ Herb, and their question is, what was the light bulb moment where you realized that tintypes are the medium you want to work in the most?
The minute I paid off all my equipment so quickly, like that, like, honestly, it was, I love doing it, and I'm shooting photography every single day, you know, which is a dream. Like, that's awesome. And on top of that, I'm shooting portraits and people, and it's just, the minute I just knew, like, I always told Katie, like, if we don't just hit the ground running, like, we're going to lose momentum. So it was like, the minute I saw a need for it, that was it.
Yeah.
I think like it's probably not as much about the medium necessarily as you're just getting to do, you've been able to like find success in doing what you love to do, like at the heart of it.
Yeah, and it's awesome.
Yeah,
makes sense. What's some of the stuff that you think you want to do for the future?
Like we were talking, I want to shoot a really big plate.
Yeah,
you know, huge, as big as I can go with it. That's a massive goal. And just stay busy, stay current, and
he always talks about doing some sort of like gallery show.
I want to do a gallery show.
Absolutely, you should do that.
Like we have the space for it and all that. So yeah, definitely big plates. Just keep pushing forward and a gallery, an art show of some sort would be awesome. Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Nice.
Those are good goals. I'll
Absolutely.
definitely support you on that large format. So
Yeah.
I'll take that lens out. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, I'm down.
Silver and Cedar, Phoenix Film Revival collab in the works.
Way down.
Well, thank you guys so much for
Yeah.
joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
This is fun.
You guys are awesome. So much fun chatting about film photography and
Yeah.
nerding out. And obviously Tintypes.
Yeah, and it's so great to see someone in the community doing something and really, doing it well, which is
Yeah.
really nice. It's nice to have something in the community that's,
Yeah.
this stuff is, none of it's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of hard work. So to see anyone stick with it and keep going and persevere through the stuff that's hard is nice to see, because I know Dan and I really recognize that.
Well, yeah,
Yes.
you guys
A lot
have
of-
a running darkroom. Like, that's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's wild.
Yeah, it's a lot of work to run a business, and if you don't have the capital to just jump in and invest in things that make it easy, you gotta work into it and get into that spot, or be gung ho and just jump in and say, I've got a studio,
Yeah.
and
We'll figure it out.
I always believe that you are only going to get out of it what you put into it. And that was part of the big reason why I left my job, was because if I could put 100% of my time into it, then we would get 100% back.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So
And I feel like it paid off. Like, I'm a procrastinator really bad, and Katie's not. So,
yeah,
yeah, worked out.
find yourself a good partner.
Yes,
Yeah.
It helps. It helps a lot. That's no joke.
definitely. Well, thank you guys. So obviously our listeners are going to want to follow you. What is your Instagram?
All your socials, I guess.
Yeah. So, Silver and Cedar is it just at Silver and Cedar?
On Instagram and TikTok, yeah, Silver and Cedar.
Now on Threads, Silver and Cedar.
The website, obviously, Silver and Cedar.
silverandcedarphx.com.
PHX. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And
Broken Hearted Leather.
Oh, yep. And then my leather goods are Instagram and TikTok, Broke in Hearted Leather. And then I just launched a new website, brokenheartedleather.com.
So if you go to my website, it'll pop up and take you to her website if you want to go over there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have
And-
personal pages that have just your random street photography stuff like that?
So I do, yeah. If you go, it's just MatthewStella.com. And if you're on the Silver and Cedar website, it'll say digital photography. Click on that. That'll take you over to my digital stuff. And that's all lifestyle stuff, portraits, street photography, headshots, and all that stuff. You can book straight from there. I've been really trying to push headshots and more of the environmental portrait sort of work. So you could book all that through there.
And he has an Instagram, Matthew Stella
Photography.
Awesome. We will put all those links in the notes. So for any of you guys who didn't catch all that, you can click on the link in the notes.
Yeah. And if you've never gotten a tintype, book one, because it's a very, very interesting process to, get to be a part of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And just because you should do it for yourself. Just
Yes.
have a portrait of yourself.
you really should.
And do a
Yeah.
solo.
Yes.
If you have no one to do it with, do a solo. Solo portraits are my absolute favorite things to shoot.
Yes.
Come in by yourself and just enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a nice thing to do for yourself for sure.
Love yourself, hang it on the wall. Perfect.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys so much. Hopefully we can get you on podcast down the road here
Yeah.
and chat again.
After you guys do your giant tintype, we're
Yeah,
expecting
yeah.
it now.
We're
I wanna
doing
see
it.
that.
Time to collab.
Yep. I feel like this is like a contract,
Yep.
so we got to do it
Yep.
now.
Yeah, it's going to happen. Well, awesome. Thank you guys so much. And we will catch you later.
Thank you.
Welcome.